Talk. I'm Jane, and today we are so lucky to be joined by Professor Kathleen DeRose. Welcome, Prof D.
Hey, Jane. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you so much for being here. I know that this semester's already finished, so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
It's absolutely my pleasure. It was obviously great having you in class, and I'm just so happy and excited to be part of this broadcast.
Yeah, thank you. So, Prof D, obviously you haven't always been a professor at NYU. You have a very impressive career. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you started from and how you came to be where you are?
Well, you're super kind to say that. And I feel very lucky because this is the portfolio part of my career, meaning I get to do a lot of different things now, following on about 25, 30 years on Wall Street, mostly starting as a portfolio manager and analyst, and moving up through the ranks and overseeing portfolio management and research and all this fun stuff that you're involved in actually as well, I think, in asset and wealth management. Absolutely fun time. So lucky. Probably more lucky than smart, since when I started, the market was Dow 1000, and you can Google where it is today. But it was a fantastic ride, and then just very lucky to be a guest visitor at an academic institution like NYU, where I'm running the Fintech programs, and just very excited to be doing that and having wonderful students like yourself in the classroom and leading and teaching in our Fintech programs.
Very humble. I think you're more smart than lucky. If I can make
There's always a
fair
little bit of both, I guess, in there. Yeah. And some elbow grease, I guess, a little hard work.
Yeah. So you did the global MBA through Stern, where you went to London School of Economics, HEC in Paris, and also NYU Stern. How was the whole experience?
Well, it's so great because, I think that all these pivot points in your career, at least for me, and why I'm so excited to be in education, were marked by, educational efforts. And so whether it was, graduating from college and then going into the investment business with like no background and kind of having to jumpstart myself with CFA, to doing an MBA, which I didn't have a chance to do until pretty late on. I put it aside because career was going well and I had a family I didn't want to disrupt, but I was so excited to be able to do a global MBA. So I'd hoped to get another gig working overseas, which ended up, transpiring as a result of this. And I think the other characteristic of the program was having the 3 different schools and all these different perspectives was very cool. And I got to say, in addition to my, of course, the faculty, my amazing classmates. So I'm sure you found that as an MBA student, part of the experience is just all these fantastic people who, also remain lifelong friends. And I've got to say that program certainly fulfilled that as well.
Yeah, for sure. What stood out from each of the schools for you?
Okay, so I think it's great to talk about that because it's quite hard to pull off such a program with different institutions. And it's because they all bring different things to the table. So NYU brought the finance aspect, I would say. That's kind of not what NYU was known for. And then HEC's expertise really was on things like the marketing and the consumer angle. And then London School of Economics is known for policy economics, things like that. So these things all inform the program, and also I think attracted an international student body. So I think in our class, we must have had, out of a class of 50 or 60, maybe only 10 Americans. And that was certainly one of the reasons I picked the program.
Yep. Okay, that's perfect. So you did your undergrad senior thesis on US-Chinese relations in the 1920s, and then you did your master's degree in Chinese welfare lottery. What have you learned about China, and how has it evolved in the last century?
Yeah, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but when I studied China as an undergraduate, it was before China was open, and there were about 2 books in the library. And so, and I think when Mao died, GDP in China was between $200 and $300 per head per capita, and today it's about 12,000. So that this whole interest in China has coincided with a massive rise of the country. And for interests like me in terms of finance and fintech, obviously there's a very big influence not only on the global economy, as China has contributed a significant portion of growth during that process, but also in terms of how they approach finance businesses and data related businesses, which is, of course, completely different than Western views, and is shaped, of course, by their political system and other dynamics there. So China is obviously a force of nature as well, and probably here to stay.
Yep. Okay. So do you think that China can be the next global powerhouse?
Well, I think given what we were just talking about the incredible transition that's happened already there, that they're already contributing in a significant way to overall global growth. And of course, despite geopolitical tensions, will remain, an important, contender for global status continuing going forward.
Yeah. Okay. And there's probably not one particular person or country that will dominate the place in that, the dominant four will always be there. It's just an overlay of tensions and dynamics, I guess, that happens in the financial world.
It's not my kind of area of academic expertise, political science and stuff, but yes, there's contention for global hegemon, and that's a contest underway right now that we're seeing play out in many different domains and arenas.
Yes.
So just keeping my comments to kind of fintech competition. One of the things we talked about in class was this sort of global competition where you think that tech has no borders, but in fact, in fintech, these really are competing worlds, whether it's, Europe with more restrictions on things like privacy, Asia with maybe less, and the US somewhere in the middle, different political systems, different banking and financial systems, different technology degrees of, advance. And so all these things are going to shape fintech, and it is sort of a global competition, at least within finance and fintech.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And also not just different regulations, but beliefs in where fintech should be in their respective world, right? Their respective system. And we saw that in the cutting down of the Ali group into 6 different companies, which is probably something that would never happen in the US or most of the developed nations.
No, I think, look, all countries will bring different perspectives from a regulatory standpoint, and regulations and banking systems will shape the outlook for fintech around the world for sure. Whether you're in, you're in London or New York or Shanghai, technology developments will advance finance everywhere, and they'll further be shaped by, whether you have state-owned banks or privately owned banks, or what kind of regulatory regime or country motives that you have.
Yeah. And that sparks a different conversation as well in terms of regional banks in the US, but we'll save that for another time. So you have a very impressive professional career. You've worked for Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, and Credit Suisse. What led you to academia, and more specifically with NYU?
Yeah, so I think you'll find that education has been a strong thread throughout my life. Both personally and now teaching. I think this comes from very much, family background and there's immigrants back there, and every American's background, and, getting ahead and improving yourself was always about education. And then for me now, it's also about paying it forward. So not only was I lucky enough to come to NYU, I was invited back to be an executive residence here and help formulate the fintech programs. And then they asked me to stay and teach. So very exciting to be a part of that. And so my personal give back is to try to shape the future of education. And I support that now in my career. And I also support it in the various philanthropic things I do, which are almost all around education as well. So can't get enough of it. And I think that speaks to just my conviction that education is such an important part of everybody's, personal development and also personal advancement, and an avenue also for getting access for those groups that have been historically overlooked.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for accepting that invitation, because I wouldn't be in your class otherwise.
Yeah, it was great. It's great having you there. And, one of the most fun and rewarding aspects of being a teacher is actually, meeting all of you. And NYU is a fantastic place for that, because I do think they do a great job attracting super capable, talented students. And of course, as a professor, you always love that engagement in the classroom, and all of you guys bring a wonderful and diverse perspective to the room as well.
Yeah, perfect. So on your LinkedIn bio, you said that you want to help shape the future. What are your hopes and dreams for all of our futures?
Yeah, so I think I'm always a very optimistic person, and I love having an impact. And when you're a professor, you really hope to shape people's minds by giving them the tools they need to think independently. So I would say that's kind of the base level of what I hope and expect, especially with my younger students, to encourage them to think for themselves. And so to deal with real world ambiguity, to think logically, to present themselves effectively. And then further within fintech, to at least intrigue them in one or two aspects of it, and in the end, to shape themselves into really good fintech citizens. So when they are confronted with a choice in their career, if it's in fintech or finance, that I hope they make the right choice, since we now know how important it is that technology plays a role in shaping people's behavior and financial choices. So I'm very interested in kind of educating, training people, giving them the frameworks to be able to be really good fintech citizens.
So the subject that I'm currently studying from you is called Fintech. Now, do you think that tech is good for fin? Does it really level the playing field for everyone to access the financial world? Or does it exacerbate the wealth gap between the tech haves and have-nots?
Yeah, so there's this, Silicon Valley cliche that technology makes the world a better place. And we certainly explore that in class. And I think it's a theme that runs through fintech as well. When we learn about the transformational power of technology, because it does have the ability to lower costs and make things more transparent and accessible, essentially democratize finance. But we also learn that it's not entirely a perfect world, right? So the flip side of that, making a world a better place, is that we do have tremendous power concentrated in the hands of technology companies. And with that comes, a lot of responsibility to do the right thing. And so we've seen through the growth of things like social media that technology can also have some dark sides as well as some light sides. So I'm very interested in making sure students are aware of these trade-offs and that we continue to reach for the making the world a better place aspect by, encouraging financial inclusion, encouraging financial choices that, empower and help people. And so I think that's a running theme certainly through fintech and through the courses I teach.
Yeah, that's nice. I guess I see fintech as a tool, and you can either use it for good or bad. And it's just a matter of really knowing that what started off as a good thing may actually evolve into something that's not so good.
Well, it's in your hands. You guys are all the future, not me anymore. So I think that's what I want to do, is empower people to really be able to understand and shape how people make financial choices and to do it for good. And if I can help people understand that, that's great.
Yeah, perfect. So you were a portfolio manager for a hedge fund during the 2007 subprime crisis. How was it for you?
Okay, so you always have these moments in your career, and if you're in investment management or asset management, when I think during the 1987 crash, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I remember walking home up Madison Avenue thinking, gee, I don't have any other marketable skills. What could I do if this whole world implodes on me a couple of years into my career? And of course, the financial crisis in 2008, 2009 was another one. Good news there was we were running long short portfolios and a market neutral portfolio, meaning we were able to navigate that with, in terms of our client portfolio performance was pretty good because of the short positions. But it was a very unpleasant time in the marketplace, and definitely one of those moments when you're in that when you're in that business and in that career where you're thinking so much about client portfolios and hoping they get the policy choices right.
Yeah. Did you think at the time that it was going to last much longer than it did?
You never really know how these things unfold. I remember the bottom very distinctly because it was marked by just sort of the capitulation and kind of all those classical signs. And by that point, I think we'd started to see the policy shift from, towards more of a trying to actually support the economy. But I remember pulling out some books, in particular, having a Fed chair at the time who was a scholarly expert on the Depression. He'd written a book called The Lessons of the Great Depression. And that gave you a lot of confidence that some people were very well informed about the consequences of not, helping out the economy and the financial system to stabilize.
Okay, perfect. So you were also very much ahead of your time and worked in a male-dominated industry. What was the hardest challenge of being a female professional working in the financial industry during the 80s and 90s, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, no, I think, look, we have advanced so much. And, I give a lot of credit to my family from very early days, encouraging the kind of conversation around the dinner table and through good education, is that I was never afraid to speak up and, to have the intellectual confidence to be in the room. And that was always, I think, something I would fall back on reliably. And it didn't always make it easy. And I think we've advanced, so much. We are still far from perfect, though. I got to say that there's still so much work to do. And when you see kind of the routine things that still happen in the workplace, the women being asked to take the minutes, or just not getting a seat at the table. There's still so much work we have to do. At the same time, I'm so excited and encouraged when I see things like, hey, I'm in a room and suddenly 40% of that room is full of women, or business school, admissions are now getting close to like 50-50. So you take the small wins when you can. And I'm just happy to see the progress and know that for folks like yourself or for my daughter, things will be a lot better.
Yeah. And our daughters' daughters, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So what 3 skills would an excellent portfolio manager need to have from your perspective?
Okay, so I think number one is curiosity, right? Because when you're investing, you are kind of expert on no businesses, but you know a lot about a lot of businesses. And I think that's key, is just the willingness to understand and learn about new businesses, whether it's something, even if it's something you've never heard of before. So it's the curiosity, number one. Number two, it's just the discipline. So I've never seen a successful investor without a sustainable, repeatable investment process. So the discipline. And I think the other thing is the ability to just cut through things. So the ability to abstract, because there's so much information in the world, and to extract a signal from the noise is really an art, and the ability to do that. And I'm assuming that we're talking about the portfolio side of the equation and not the client relationship, because it's
That's
just
got different skill set.
And the client relationship thing is a whole other aspect of it.
I read just over the weekend the 2021 Fidelity study on women and investing finds that women outperform men investors in general. Do you think that this was the case based on your experience?
So there's a lot of research, and I think some of this pioneering research was done by Terry and Odine, and they've written a lot of papers on this subject. So what's interesting about some of their findings, and I don't know if they're, I think they're mostly substantiated by other researchers, but kind of as the headline, that this particular study looked at Schwab investors and retail investors, and found that risk adjusted, women outperformed men. And that was because they just did more research and took more time and didn't trade as much. Now, we all know from being in the investment management business that usually rapid fire trading is subtractive rather than additive. So that's kind of what the academic research says. The other comment I would make about this is kind of a caveat. When you look at all these studies of professional investors, keep in mind that historically, women did not get access to the big portfolios. I was very lucky because I was running, a product that was like 20 billion, institutional 40 Act funds, things like that. Oftentimes you'll find that you just don't get access to the big portfolio. You get access to like the niche one or the specialty one. And so sometimes these aren't apples to apples comparisons. But I have full confidence that when the playing field is leveled, that any smart woman could do just as well as anybody else in this business when managing portfolios.
Yep, that's a very well-rounded answer. Okay, if there was one key takeaway that we can all take from your class, what would that be?
Okay, well, I think hopefully I've excited you about the subject of fintech. That's number one. I think finance is fun and cool, and I hope I convey that in class, that it's a fantastic tool for understanding and explaining how things work, while at the same time giving you the opportunity to question some of the core assumptions of finance along the way. So getting you excited about finance, getting you excited about fintech, and also getting you excited about the transformational power that actually is in your hands when you walk out of the classroom and into a fintech career.
Yeah, perfect. All right, Professor Kathleen DeRose, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed learning from you. I think we've covered a whole range of topics in such a short amount of time, but you've made it bite-sized, concise, clear, and digestible. The type of deliverables, the activities that we had to do was initially, it seemed like quite a lot to deliver, but it actually made everything stuck to our head. So thank you so much for delivering it so professionally.
Oh my gosh, well, I love hearing that from a student. We try really hard to make the course meaningful to you guys and helpful in your careers. And so it's great to hear that. It was a pleasure having you in class, and I'm really happy that you enjoyed it.
Thank you. So before we finish off, I thought I prepared a few questions for a quick fire round. Would you be up for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So we have 2 minutes to answer these questions. Ready?
I'm ready.
Great. So your house is on fire. All of your family members are safe and they're outside of the house. You can only save one of your accessory item. What would that be?
Well, you didn't mention pets. So assuming family's safe, I'm going for, the dog, for sure.
Okay.
They're next in line. Yeah.
Okay. What gets you up in the morning?
Mega strong, incredibly black coffee.
Okay. It's your last day on Earth. You have everything and everyone you need. How would you spend it?
With my family.
Nice. If you have to sum up your life and everything that you've worked and strived for in one word, what would it be?
Curiosity.
Nice. What's your power song?
Okay, so I absolutely love Beethoven's cello and piano sonatas. Played at full blast in the car.
Nice. Any particular one?
Yeah, there is one. It's number 3, A major, and it's I find it beautiful.
Okay. Why do you do what you do?
Absolute passion, as I hope I've conveyed, for the power of education to help people improve their lives.
Perfect. And lastly, what do you want to be remembered for?
The impact I had on others.
Perfect. All right, Professor Kathleen DeRose, thank you again for your time. It's been such a pleasure, and I hope we can still keep in touch.
Absolutely, Jane. Look forward to it. And thanks so much for this fun conversation.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy our conversation, please press the like button, comment, and share with your friends. In the meantime, don't forget to press the subscribe button so that the next video will go straight to your box. See you next time.